Good evening. My name is Terry Becker. I'm one of the tying instructors for the Madison chapter of Trout Unlimited. You can find our organization on the web at www.swtu.org. The other thing I want to say is to thank Cabela's. We're at their new store outside of Madison in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, and they're allowing us to use the room here for demonstrations and class this evening, so we thank them a lot. So we're going to start our first fly. Is called a pheasant tail. It's a basic fly that you can use just about any time of the year, whether it's winter, spring, summer, or fall. Easy to tie, and I'm going to show you a couple of things maybe I do differently than someone else does. Hopefully it makes it a little bit better. Because one of the things I like to do is make flies functional. I can make them pretty, but it takes more time sometimes. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit functional. Okay. First fly is a basic pheasant tail. Normally I use a curved shank nymph hook. You know, see the back of the hook is curved a little bit different than a regular hook. You could use a nymph hook to do this fly if you wanted to, but I used a size 16 curved shank nymph hook for tonight. The color thread I'm using is like a medium brown. You can use a darker brown if you want, because we want to try to match some of the colors of the pheasant tail fibers. Okay. Now, I've already put the thread on the hook, because I'm assuming if you're at this level, you know how to put the thread on the hook. So I already prepped it a little bit for you. And the next thing I'm going to do is make the pheasant tail itself. Now, pheasant tail, it has some really good parts down towards the bottom. Towards the top, it's going to get a little bit flimsy, so to speak, or a little weaker. So I'm going to concentrate more on the bottom half to two-thirds of the feather for this fly. And what I'm going to do is pick out some fibers. I probably want anywhere from 3 to 5, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm just going to clip them off at the stem, because I want to get that little tail look before I'm done. Now, a lot of instructors will tell you to tie it the length of the hook, and that's fine. I'm going to tell you to tie it at the length that you like it. You don't want it real long, you don't want it real short, somewhere around the length or two-thirds the length of the hook. And I'm just holding that on top. I'm going to do a pinch wrap a couple of times. So I get my tail right on top of the hook and it fans it out just a little bit. The other thing I'm going to need is some ribbing. And I'm going to use copper ribbing. You can get different colors. Now this is ultra wire. You can use any brand you want. It'll be in a small for this size hook. So there's no problem with using red or green or some other color. I happen to have a bunch of copper wire, so that's what I'm going to use tonight. And I'm going to take the wire and put it in about two-thirds or so the length of the hook towards the eye. Give it a couple wraps like so. So I have my basics set up. Okay. Now I'm going to take and advance my thread forward, capturing that wire on top, right up towards the hook eye. Now you can use a hackle pliers to wrap this body, but I prefer my fingers if I can. And I'm just going to wrap that the pheasant tail around the hook so that the next wrap touches the previous wrap.
So that's black one, that's
And I want to go up pretty close to the eye, but not quite to it.
Take a step back here and let you know kind of how I want.
And that'll work fine. I'll give it 2 or 3 tie-offs with the thread. And the way I'm doing this, I don't need this part, so I'm going to clip it off. Okay, questions? Okay, now I'm going to take my ribbing and I'm going to counter wrap that. And the spacing in the ribbing is your choice. So I'm going to get probably about 5 wraps on this. 4 wraps would work as well. I'm counter wrapping it for a couple of reasons, or I'm wrapping it for a couple of reasons. Anybody know why I'm wrapping it that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
The feathers.
Yeah, it helps to hold the feathers down, because the feathers are wrapped this way, the wire's wrapped this way. It's going to help hold it, and it's made a nice little ribbing in there. So now I'm going to capture this wire with some thread.
So, first things first.
And if you really want to hold it, you can bring the wire
So
back
first thing we need to learn is how to
and wrap a little bit on that too. And then snip that off towards the bottom of your scissors so you don't ruin your tips. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do
here
is get some more pheasant tail.
mount the hook.
I want more than three or four fibers. I'm going to want probably like 8 to 10,
Pause on your device and how they work.
maybe a clump about like so.
You can see here, I've got the hook
Okay.
shank.
Then I'm going to take that fiber, I'm going to put it on top, just short of the eye,
Don't worry about that just right now, but just
and I'm going to
know there's a
secure
lot
that
of
to the
concerns
top of the
about,
hook.
You need a rotary vise sometimes, but just saying.
I want that right square on top.
You also want to be able
Then I'm going to wrap it
see
back
the point.
about to where I think the
Jaws on some of your vices
thorax is going to
really
go.
thick. So if you can't
Something
see
like
the
that.
point of your foot,
Okay, so I have a nice little space ready for my thorax material.
it's
Now
gonna
for a thorax, we're going to use Peacock Herl.
But the goal is
You could use some dubbing, I suppose, but the standard is Peacock Herl. And the color's up to you. You can get it other colors than green, such as red and more of a brownish color. And I'm just going to wrap that on top so it's not going to interfere with the eye.
So just first off,
Back about as far as I want to go with the wing
consider
butt.
mounting that hook.
And then I bring my thread forward.
Make sure that it's mounted
Okay.
properly.
And then just going to take and wrap that Herl around. I'm not going to pull it. I'm going to guide it into place
Hook is in there tight, because
like
we
so.
want to be able to put some tension on this.
I want enough of a
Applying our thread,
thorax
apply our
to
thread,
make
the
it look
thread
nice, but not
is
too
on
much.
tension, and that's what holds all the materials onto the hook.
And once in a while, that Peacock Herl will separate on you, and I just twist it together and try to bring it together if I can as a unit.
Next step.
Right now, this is about enough for what I want.
This is
A couple of wraps to secure that off.
something that can be.
Now, the one thing I try to do
Now, I know most
is always wrap stuff off on the side,
feel
because when I do that and clip it off, it's never going to interfere with the eye. If you tie it off up here, you have to kind of mess with it sometimes to get it so that it's not going to interfere with the eye. Okay, so our eye's clear. I'm going to take our hunk of pheasant tail. I'm going to bring it over the top and start making my wing casing. And what I'm going to do here is make about 2 wraps is all you really need. Making sure my eye is clear. So far, so good.
Just like Marie did, you have a question.
And then the other thing I want to do is
I don't always remember.
I'm going to put, you can put a half hitch in it,
So,
or you can do a couple of wraps with your
what I've done here is I've taken this spool of thread.
whip finisher, thank you. And I want it on top. And the reason I want it on top is what I like to do is come back over the bud, the wing pad, wing buds, like so, so I'm in behind it. Do you see that? So it's secure here. I don't have to worry about that ever. I bring my thread over behind the wing, the bud, wing pad. Then I'm going to take my Herl, or Peacock, pheasant tail, and bring it back over.
Through the bobbin,
Just give it a couple of wraps like so.
thread through it.
Okay, so that's giving my wing casing a little more thickness, and it allows me to use this now as my legs. If I had a big clump, I'd have too many here, but now it gives me a chance to do the legs.
So
what I'm going to do with the rest of these now
what you want to
is
do,
I'm going to split them
this is the way I do it. Is
approximately
I
50-50
hold the tip of my
and bring them
bobbin
up so they're kind of,
just above the shank.
so I can work with them. I'm going to do some figure eights, okay? I'm going to hold it at about a 45-degree angle
The shank of
from the
hook,
shank.
and
Do a
then-
couple wraps that way.
so I'm pulling slightly over that first wrap.
Come back and do a couple wraps this way.
Capture it.
And if I think I need more, I can just go around and do some more wraps.
Would you like me to?
But what I like to do is get it to this point, and then I can bring it up where I want it, basically. And then I'm going to take my fibers, and I'm going to come in here and cut it off to about the length, maybe about 1/8 of an inch or so,
Loose end is down.
something like that.
Yep, the tag end is down.
And these are going to be my little legs sticking out.
Bobbin itself I'm holding parallel. other things
Okay.
that's challenging is a lot of times beginners will
And then I simply take my whip finisher.
he's constantly following. No. Use
And I'll go behind the wing bud.
bobbin. This is where the control is.
Wing pad.
This will allow you practicing
Snip.
aiming and
You can still bring these up a little bit if you want
Your
to.
bobbin is going to give you a lot.
My hook eye is totally clear. And then I'm going to cement this where the tie-in is, a little bit on top, and I'll put a little drop of cement behind or around each leg to help tie those in. Not super glue, use some kind of head cement. Super glue sometimes will dry whitish color, and it'll also disperse up the fibers sometimes on you, and then you'll ruin your fibers. So I'm going to do the knot, I'm going to do a little bit on top, a little bit around the legs, and then use my excess cement over the top of the wing case. And that's a basic functional, maybe not the prettiest in the world, but a functional pheasant tail. You can run this by itself, maybe behind a weighted scud. You could, if you want to, adapt it as a bead head and use it as a lead fly. But this fly right now is set up to run as like a trailer fly, maybe with a weighted scud or a bead head ahead of it, and this about 12, 14 inches behind it, and hopefully it's going to go in the water a little bit like this in the current.
Right, so that's going through.
Questions?
Now, next part,
Okay, let's go tie.
we want to mount the thread